So think about this for a second. When was the last time you sat quietly for just like 5 minutes?
Oh, wow. Just 5 minutes.
Yeah, but I mean really quietly, not waiting in line at the grocery store while staring at a screen.
Right.
I mean, absolutely no phone, no television, no music in the background, no smartwatch, buzzing your wrist with a bunch of notifications. Just you, completely alone with your own thoughts.
For most of us, answering that honestly is, it's a little bit uncomfortable, honestly, because in our current era of just constant information overload, having a wandering, anxious mind is not a personal failing. It is, well, it's basically the default setting of modern life.
It really is.
Yeah.
And it's surprisingly difficult to find that quiet. But that question actually sets the foundation for today's deep dive.
It does.
We're exploring some really fascinating excerpts today from the Easy English podcast, specifically focusing on this concept they call the quiet path to English fluency and how to calm your mind.
Yeah, and the mission today is to unpack what is a seriously counterintuitive idea.
Super counterintuitive.
Yeah.
Because we usually assume that mastering a complex new skill, like learning a language, requires just furiously cramming in more and more information.
We treat it as an endurance test.
Exactly. But the materials we're looking at today suggest that slowing down and intentionally calming the mind is actually like the ultimate life hack for learning.
Which is such a vital paradigm shift, I think. What we're really examining today is the idea that learning shouldn't be about adding pressure to a system that's already overloaded.
Right.
It has to be about establishing a baseline of peace first, because without that baseline, the cognitive mechanics of learning, they simply break down.
Well, here's where it gets really interesting, because we aren't just talking about abstract wellness advice today. We have a very specific, actionable case study to ground this in.
Right, Sophia.
Yeah. So we're introduced to a 29-year-old full-time office worker named Sophia, and her daily grind is just intense.
Oh, it sounds exhausting.
It really does. She spends her entire day answering emails, sitting through these back-to-back meetings, and solving relentless problems. So by the time she gets home, she is completely wiped out.
Which is totally understandable.
Right. Yet she subjects herself to this grueling evening routine of English books, vocabulary drills, videos, and, audio lessons.
She's doing everything conventionally right to become a confident speaker.
But the friction lies in the fact that her greatest hurdle isn't actually English grammar or pronunciation.
No.
Her hurdle is her internal state. She genuinely enjoys learning, but when she sits down with her books, her mind is simply not in the room.
She's stressing over unfinished tasks or, replaying some minor mistakes she made during a morning meeting.
She reads the exact same paragraph 3 times and absorbs absolutely nothing.
We've all been there.
Trying to learn while you are that stressed is, it's like having 50 tabs open on your web browser, and you're just sitting there wondering why the one video you actually want to watch keeps buffering.
Yeah.
The processor is just maxed out. There is literally no working memory left for the new information.
That analogy hits the nail on the head because cognitive bandwidth is entirely finite. We tend to treat our brains like these infinite storage drives, assuming we can just keep saving new files regardless of how many background programs are running.
And you just can't.
No, you can't. When your system is crashing like that, forcing a reboot often leads to, really counterproductive behaviors.
Which brings us to the dreaded doom scroll.
Ah, yes. The doom scroll.
Sophia decides she needs to relax, so she picks up her phone and she tells herself, she'll just check social media for 5 minutes.
And we know how that goes.
It turns into an hour of mindless scrolling. And we don't need to rehash the psychological trap of looking at other people's highlight reels, right? We all know that makes us feel terrible.
Yeah, definitely.
But what I want to know is the neurological cost of doing this right after trying to study.
Well, the neurological cost is catastrophic for learning. I mean, when you study a language, you're trying to form delicate new neural connections.
Right.
To consolidate those short-term memories into long-term storage, your brain relies really heavily on a region called the hippocampus.
Okay.
But when you doom scroll, you are subjecting your brain to this massive roller coaster of dopamine spikes, followed immediately by crashes.
Oh, wow.
And if you mix in the anxiety of comparing your life to others, your body starts releasing cortisol.
The stress hormone.
Exactly, the primary stress hormone. And cortisol physically inhibits the hippocampus.
Wait, Physically inhibits it.
Yes. You are essentially flooding the exact part of the brain you need for memory retention with a chemical that literally blocks it from working.
So she's spending 2 hours studying and then accidentally washing all that new vocabulary away with a chemical flood of stress before she even goes to sleep.
Exactly.
And her body might eventually sleep, but her mind never rests, meaning she wakes up with the cognitive load of yesterday and anxiety of tomorrow.
Precisely. It is virtually impossible to encode new language skills or, any complex memories when you're operating in a persistent state of fight or flight.
The brain just prioritizes survival over vocabulary retention.
It has to, yeah.
But this dynamic finally breaks for her on a Saturday morning.
Yes, the turning point.
Right. Sophia wakes up exhausted, realizes her mind has been running on a treadmill all night, and she makes this tiny but radical choice.
Which I love.
Instead of reaching for the phone on the nightstand, she gets up and opens her window. She lets the fresh morning air in, she listens to the birds, and she takes 5 slow, deep breaths.
Just 5 breaths.
It is her first real moment of quiet in weeks.
What's fascinating here is the immediate physiological shift that occurs. Replacing a digital screen with the physical, sensory act of opening a window instantly changes her mental state.
But how does something so simple override that whole stress cycle you were just talking about?
It all comes down to the nervous system. You see, screens are engineered to keep us in a state of high alert, engaging the sympathetic nervous system.
The fight or flight response.
Right. But by redirecting her attention to physical sensory input, the feeling of the cold air, the sound of the birds, she forces her brain to process the present moment.
Okay, that makes sense.
And those 5 deep, deliberate breaths act as a mechanical signal to the vagus nerve, which activates the parasympathetic nervous system.
The parasympathetic.
Yeah, that's your rest and digest mode. It actively lowers the heart rate and pulls her out of survival mode, which brings the prefrontal cortex back online.
So that one sensory shift primes her for a completely different approach to her day.
Exactly.
Because right after that, she visits a bookstore and picks up a book titled The Things You Can See Only When You Slow Down by Heyman Sunim.
Such a great book.
Yeah, and the core insight she takes from it is that slowing down allows us to finally notice everyday beauty and, maybe more importantly, to hear our own thoughts clearly.
She realizes she's been rushing through everything.
Treating her English studies as a race to the finish line.
And recognizing that tendency is really the first step toward re-engineering how we input information into our brains.
Well, let's look at the actual mechanics of that re-engineering, because the most radical shift isn't the material she studies, but how she primes her brain before she even looks at a book.
Right.
By Monday, she starts waking up 15 minutes earlier. And instead of grabbing the phone, she makes tea, sits by the window, and writes down 3 specific things she is grateful for.
Simple things.
Yeah, things like, today I have another chance to learn, or I am improving every day.
She's intentionally setting the cognitive tone, shifting from a reactive state, dictated by her inbox, to a proactive, calm state.
And this spills over into her reading habits. Instead of rushing to translate every sentence perfectly in a book of short stories, treating it like a math problem to be solved.
Which is what we all do.
Yeah, exactly. Instead of that, she slows down, she imagines the scenes, smiles at the funny parts, and when she finishes, she doesn't do a word-for-word translation.
Crucial point right there.
She closes the book and explains the story out loud to herself in her own words.
That shift from translation to summarization is a massive evolution in her learning strategy.
I am going to push back on this strategy, though.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, just to play devil's advocate for a second.
Sure, go for it.
If you are spending 15 extra minutes in the morning drinking tea, and you are intentionally reading much slower in the evening, you are technically consuming far less information, right?
Technically, yes.
So if old Sophia was exposing herself to 50 new vocabulary words a night, and new Sophia is only exposing herself to 10, how does doing less actually lead to faster improvement?
Because we have to separate data accumulation from actual language acquisition.
Okay, unpack that.
Well, rushing through 10 pages of English and exposing yourself to 50 new words gives you a net gain of 0 if your brain is too stressed to encode them.
Because of the cortisol.
Right. When you read slowly and visualize a story, you move from superficial exposure to deep retention.
Sure, I agree the quality matters, but if I only deeply learn 5 words instead of 50, won't it take me, like, A decade to become fluent? I mean, a language has tens of thousands of words. It feels like the math doesn't work out.
The math doesn't work out if you view the brain as a hard drive, but that isn't how memory works.
It's not.
No. When you rely on rote memorization, like cramming 50 words via flashcards, you are using short-term semantic memory. The brain is incredibly efficient. It regularly prunes data it deems irrelevant.
So it just deletes them.
Exactly. So you memorize 50 words today, and your brain discards 48 of them by tomorrow.
Wow.
But when Sophia reads a story, visualizes it, and forces herself to summarize it using her existing vocabulary, she is using episodic memory. She's creating a rich contextual web.
So the brain views the contextualized words as necessary to keep.
Exactly. Furthermore, word-for-word translation keeps you tethered to your native language. It acts as a crutch.
Well, that makes sense.
By closing the book and generating a summary, she is building new neural pathways that allow her to think directly in the target language. She is practicing actual fluency, the ability to generate original thought.
Right.
So the volume is lower, but the cognitive quality is exponentially higher, which leads to faster, more permanent acquisition.
Okay, the distinction between semantic pruning and episodic memory clarifies a lot. She is essentially proving to her brain that these words actually matter.
Yes.
And she deepens this by integrating her emotions. When she works on vocabulary, she focuses on emotion words like peaceful, patient, relaxed, balanced.
I love this part.
Yeah, but instead of writing definitions, she writes highly personal sentences. Today I feel peaceful. I want a balanced life.
Tying new knowledge to a personal emotional state is just a brilliant tactic.
Why is that so effective?
Well, the amygdala, which processes emotions, is situated right next to the hippocampus.
Oh, the memory center.
Exactly. When information has emotional weight and personal relevance, the brain flags it as vital for survival or identity, which drastically improves retention. These are no longer sterile vocabulary exercises. They become internalized mantras.
And she then takes this out into the physical world.
Yes.
Every afternoon, she implements a 20-minute walk with absolutely no phone. She simply walks, observing the environment, and practices describing her surroundings in English.
Such a great exercise.
The sky is bright today. The trees are moving gently.
She basically turns the world around her into a low-stakes, stress-free classroom.
She also revamps how she consumes audio. Instead of playing a podcast in the background while, washing dishes or something, she listens with full attention.
She's using the Effortless English podcast for this, right?
Right. And she pauses it, summarizes the main ideas out loud, and even records herself speaking. And here is the kicker. She notices her pronunciation is improving naturally, not because she is drilling phonetics, but simply because she is calmer.
Yeah, and there is a very physical reason for that.
Oh,
yeah, tension literally constricts the vocal cords and the muscles in the larynx. Producing unfamiliar phonemes in a new language requires immense muscular flexibility and these precise micro-movements in the mouth and throat.
Oh, I never thought of that.
When you're stressed, your physical ability to produce those new sounds diminishes, so relaxation physically improves your pronunciation.
Okay, let's unpack this. If we look at traditional language learning, we usually approach it like trying to eat a 3-course meal in 30 seconds.
We do.
We just cram it all in. We aren't digesting anything. We're just making ourselves sick. Sophia has completely dismantled the barrier between living and studying. She isn't locking herself in a room with flashcards for 2 hours of misery anymore.
She has stopped viewing English as a mountain she has to aggressively conquer and started viewing it as a lens through which she can peacefully experience her day.
There is a beautiful metaphor in the materials that anchors this entire concept.
A grandmother's garden, right?
Yeah. Yes. Sophia visits her grandmother in the garden and confesses that even with her new habits, her mind still feels restless sometimes.
Which is perfectly normal.
Right. And her grandmother pours them both a cup of warm tea, gently stirs it, and points to the moving water. She says, "You can't clearly see your reflection while the water is moving."
Oh, that's so good.
Like, wait a minute. The tea settles and becomes completely still. Suddenly, the reflection is perfect. Her grandmother tells her, "Our minds are the same. When we slow down, we see things clearly."
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it perfectly illustrates how a turbulent mind deflects information. A mind spinning with anxiety and, a million open tabs creates a chaotic surface. It just cannot absorb anything accurately.
A still mind absorbs effortlessly.
Exactly.
And we see the ripple effect of this stillness months later at her English conversation club.
Yeah.
When the teacher asked the group what helps them feel calm, Sophia articulates her entire routine slowly and confidently in English. She talks about the walks, the reading, the tea without her phone.
You might assume that bringing up personal mindfulness in a classroom setting could be, I don't know, awkward, but it actually completely changes the room's dynamic.
It really does. Her classmates start sharing their own peaceful habits. The atmosphere becomes incredibly warm and encouraging.
It's contagious.
When someone is genuinely calm, it disarms the people around them. Her internal peace is quite literally improving her ability to connect with other people in her second language.
Which is the fundamental goal of language learning. It is a tool for human connection.
And the materials highlight the contrast in her journal entries. The old pages were just a catalog of stress, like I'm too busy, I'm stressed, I'm not improving.
Right.
But the newest pages read, today I enjoyed learning. I had a peaceful walk. I spoke English with confidence. Now, the text makes a point to mention that her life did not magically become perfect.
That is a crucial distinction. A calm mind does not eliminate the chaos of life. She still has demanding days at the office. She still makes grammatical errors. The difference is her relationship to that chaos. She has built the cognitive architecture to navigate problems with patience rather than being consumed by them.
So, what does this mean for you listening right now? The overarching lesson is that you do not need to abandon your life or find hours of free time to improve your learning capacity.
No, not at all.
A 5-minute walk, a single page of a book, a cup of tea without a screen in your face, or just a few deep breaths, that is enough to still the water in the teacup.
Small, intentional moments of sensory grounding are enough to reset the nervous system.
The materials leave us with a direct challenge, and we are going to pass that challenge straight to you.
Yes, I love this challenge.
Tomorrow morning, for the very first 10 minutes after you wake up, leave your phone alone.
Don't even touch it.
Do not look at it. Open a window. Take 5 slow, deep breaths. Notice 3 specific things you can physically see out that window. Then say 3 simple sentences about your morning out loud in whatever language you were trying to learn.
And if you aren't learning a language, do it in your native language to practice the mindfulness.
Right. Say something like, today feels peaceful, or I am grateful for this new day.
That 10-minute investment changes the entire neurochemical trajectory of your morning.
Yeah.
If we look at the biggest picture here, the ultimate goal of learning any communication skill is to foster understanding with others. But perhaps the true foundational building block of fluency is establishing a clear, quiet connection with yourself.
That is so true.
You simply cannot fluently translate your thoughts to the world if you cannot hear them yourself over the noise of your own life.
You have to clear the static before you can broadcast the signal. We hope you take that 10-minute challenge tomorrow morning. Keep learning and see if you can find just 5 minutes today to sit quietly with no phone, no notifications, and just experience the stillness. Have a peaceful day, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.